Ladies and gentlemen, how do?
Cruel and chaotic is how this was described. The LA mayor, Bass, and Governor Newsom slammed ICE raids in downtown LA. There were at least 3 separate raids in the downtown LA area on Friday morning, after federal agents carried out immigration operations across the city of Los Angeles. This is Trump being the big man, puffing out his chest and sending his goon squad into a sanctuary city in an act of provocation. There was a mix of government agencies involved in these so-called immigration raids, including the FBI, DEA, DHS and ICE. Most were dressed in military fatigues, but some just looked like they were having a day out paintballing. A raid at the clothing wholesaler began about 9:15 a.m. in the Fashion District, less than 2 miles from Los Angeles City Hall. It was an extraordinary show of force. Dozens of federal agents wearing helmets and green camouflage arrived in 2 armored trucks and some unmarked vehicles, and were soon greeted by a crowd of immigrant activists and supporters. Some agents carried riot shields, others held rifles, as well as shotguns that appeared to be loaded with less than lethal ammunition. Protests broke out in other cities across the U.S., including New York and Minneapolis, and have been going on since Friday. The people and communities came out in solidarity to make their voices heard and form protective rings around potential targets of the Trump goon squad. They let these cowardly masked up bully boys know that they were not wanted in their cities. There is also shocking footage of a protester being run down by one of the unmarked ICE vehicles.
Some sort of smoke to help try and keep those people from the gate here. Okay, so here we are. We're in the middle of the street here. You can see one person trying to stand right in front of this SUV here, but it's just such a dangerous situation here, and it's really not going to do him any good to be standing there and possibly get ran over by agents. So here they are. They're on 9th Street now. Crowd is running alongside with these vehicles. And I'd pretty much guarantee that this SUV is not going to stop. Someone throwing, looks like,
wow.
All right, let me widen out here. Okay, so we saw some eggs being thrown at the vehicle. Now he is just, partly ran over by that SUV.
Oh, we
and
see
there
that
goes,
person getting up.
Oh, it looks like a bicycle was also struck in the crosswalk here. It's just a dangerous situation. It doesn't.
Why were these law officials wearing masks if they were carrying out their lawful duty? Do nothing for them unless they show you their ID, and a warrant if they want your ID, then they have to provide theirs. The police have yet again proved that they cannot be trusted as they openly collude with the federal agents in both Los Angeles and Minneapolis, launching tear gas, smoke grenades and flashbangs at the protesters and leaving the area looking like it's a war zone. Trump has now invoked the Insurrection Act and deployed 2,000 National Guardsmen to Los Angeles. This is illegal. Trump has gone over the head of the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and the National Guard can only be deployed if the governor of a state requests it of the president. This is coming just a few days from Trump's big Kim Jong-un dictator-style parade that he has planned, where he wants to roll out the tanks down the street. The Mayor Karen Bass and other city leaders, as well as Governor Gavin Newsom, expressed their outrage at the federal government, calling the raids cruel and chaotic. All of this is coming from his salty chief of staff, Stephen Miller.
But let's begin by celebrating the incredible news that President Trump, as you mentioned, Sean, has achieved the most secure border with the lowest level of illegal crossings in U.S. history. Sean, I've been studying and following and working on this issue for a long time. There is no nation anywhere on planet Earth that has achieved such a rapid success on its border in any time period as President Trump has achieved here in the United States. Going nearly overnight from an open border to a sealed border surely ranks as one of the great achievements in the history of domestic policy and national security.
Who, after losing his wife to the ketamine kid Elon Musk, is now taking his anger out on immigrants he wants 1,200 a day deported. This demented slaphead must realize this, even if the half-wit, Trump, doesn't, that it is not possible, without deporting many thousands of innocent people.
The chaotic nature of the new approach is epitomized by the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, wrongfully deported to El Salvador in March. A legal showdown between the courts and President Trump left him languishing in a notorious El Salvadorian prison for months. Yesterday, the White House announced they were bringing him back to face charges of trafficking undocumented migrants within the US, framing this as the next stage in a legal process, rather than acquiescing to any court ruling.
Our government presented El Salvador with an arrest warrant, and they agreed to return him to our country. We're grateful to President Bukele for agreeing to return him to our country to face these very serious charges. This is what American justice looks like.
But Abrego Garcia's lawyer says this is exactly the opposite, calling the charges he faces in Tennessee an abuse of power.
I think what this really goes to show is that this administration, instead of simply admitting a mistake and apologizing, this matter could have gone away within a week or two after the case being filed. Instead of simply admitting their mistake, they'll stop at nothing at all, even some of the most preposterous charges imaginable.
And by escalating ICE activity, along with invoking the Insurrection Act. An insurrectionist invoking the Insurrection Act, there's a bittersweet irony in that. Will only further raise the temperature and lead to many more people coming out onto the streets, risking things getting violent. This is Stephen Miller's Horrible Planners. Trump is way too stupid to think up anything like this. As his past statements prove, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. And, perhaps if we could inject disinfectant or shine a bright light into the body, just like his ex-wife, Elonia, he's no genius, in fact he's dumber than a post. Miller wants this to explode and get violent so that he can have Trump bring in the army and declare a national emergency, and then all rights get suspended. America becomes a full-on dictatorship, so be careful out there. Do not give him what he wants. Defend yourselves and your communities. Do not fall into Miller's trap. Stay as non-violent as you possibly can.
The black rose is traditionally linked to death, loss, mourning, and grief.
Sword of the henchman's boot for another rich man's gain. The end don't tell us everything is fine, oh stand with us, because this treatment is a crime. The working people fuel the engine, and while you yank the chain, we fight the wars and build the buildings for someone else's gain. So tell me who will stand with us. So tell me who will stand with us.
The black rose also symbolizes change, renewal, rebirth, and new beginnings. Black roses are also associated with courage, confidence, and strength.